Good afternoon, I'm Malcolm Jordan and this is your Midday News Fix for Monday, the 24th of August. National isn't ruling out hikes to existing taxes as it pledges not to introduce any new ones this election. Just a fortnight ago, the party signalled it was looking at updating bank tax settings and progressing a bed tax. It's now abandoned both ideas with a promise to rule out any new taxes if it returns to government. But National Party finance spokesperson Nicola Willis says hikes to congestion charges and ACC levies aren't off the table and they'll be looking at increasing petrol levies again.
We put a pause on that in government, but we've been very open that in future it will have to increase so we can keep maintaining the roads.
Meanwhile, Chris Luxon isn't backing down from his claim that a Labour-led government could introduce at least 9 new taxes. Labour leader Chris Hipkins has reiterated again this morning that any government he leads will not introduce any new taxes other than a capital gains tax. National's leader says he simply doesn't trust Hipkins. Luxon told Mike Hosking Labour introduced many things in government which it didn't campaign on in 2020.
Introduced a ute tax, introduced an Auckland regional fuel tax, then he goes off and actually turns the bright line test from 2 years into 10 years, effectively a de facto capital gains tax.
Meanwhile, Labour's confident stagnant property prices won't hurt its plans to slash debt if re-elected. The party's seeking a return to surplus by the end of the decade, with net debt lowered to 20% of GDP over time. But its plans hinge on a fully implemented capital gains tax. Labour leader Chris Hipkins says the property market isn't likely to continue sliding.
Even the current government's budget is based on the assumption that that is not going to continue and that we are going to return to something more like the long-run average of somewhere between 3 and 4% in terms of property prices overall.
It's unclear what Donald Trump's latest announcement on tariffs will mean for New Zealand. The US president's announced plans to let more beef into the country over the next 90 days at lower tariffs to sell at below market prices. The move is aimed at containing rising food prices. Prime Minister Chris Luxon says we already have good access to the US market.
Have beef at zero, have kiwi fruit at zero, so about 30% of our trade with the US is effectively at zero.
The Helen Clark Foundation think tank says New Zealand can't risk being left behind on agri-tech. Its discussion paper on harnessing its potential includes having a national knowledge bank on things like weather patterns and soil information. Foundation researcher Sarah Bell says more than technology is needed.
I could have technology, but I'm not a farmer, I'm not an expert, and so it wouldn't be as valuable in my hands as it would in the hands of someone who deeply understands the biology and the geology and the animal behaviour that they're experiencing.
2 violent assaults in Auckland this weekend. On Saturday, 2 girls were violently robbed by a group of 12 to 17-year-olds in Takapuna. And about 6:30 last night, the police were called to reports of fighting on Queen Street and Wellesley Street East. 4 people were arrested and 2 taken to hospital. To sport, All Blacks coach Dave Rennie doubts the Springboks will tear up their playbook in their bid to level the Test series in Cape Town on Sunday morning. Finn Fisher-Black has finished 7th on the second stage of the Vuelta a España Grand Cycling Tour. Former Kiwi Joey Manu will return to NRL League as a foundation player at the Papua New Guinea Chiefs in 2028. And United States President Donald Trump has ridden a ceremonial lap in his armoured limousine ahead of the inaugural IndyCar race through the streets of Washington. I'm Malcolm Jordan. That's your latest news fix. We'll be back with the next update at 5 p.m. from the Newstalk ZB newsroom.